Hi, I'm Jim McCann, founder of 1-800-Flowers. We created this podcast to share the wonderful people we get to interact with, we get to meet, we get to know, and most importantly, get to learn from. So I invite you to join us on this journey here on the Celebrations Chatter podcast. Well, I'm here today with John McConnell. John is a guy who knows radio and audio and entertainment and talent really, really well. And so we have lots to chat about today. John, I understand that you're now a resident of Florida in Vero Beach, formerly the home of the Dodgers during spring training, but a bunch of beautiful communities. Mostly Northeasterners down there, or do you have a smattering of Midwesterners too?
Yeah, I would say it feels like most of the people that we have met are from the Northeast, certainly Chicago, part of the Midwest. But yeah.
My wife and I have a place over on the other side of the state in Naples, Florida, and there it's mostly Midwesterners. And as I say to friends from up here, this a bunch of East Coasters too, but predominantly wonderful Midwesterners. And I have friends up here, they're so strange. My wife is on the beach like you are, and we love to walk the beach on the Gulf. And I tell friends up here, these people are so strange that when they walk past you, they say hello and good morning.
Well, actually, I think that's a misnomer because I've always found New Yorkers to be pretty friendly bunch. You know, I think I don't know. I've been I get up to New York a lot now, and maybe I'm just happy to be there. But
now that you say it, I was on the subway the other night, and the guy next to me put his head on my shoulder. So yeah, I guess we're friendly up here. So, John, tell me, how did you get started in the entertainment industry, and in particular the radio side of things?
I actually got interested in media and radio specifically when I was in high school.
Where was that?
It was in San Francisco. I was born in LA, but raised in San Francisco, even though I went to college back in LA. And in the 10th grade, I made a friend, Terry McElhatton, and Terry ended up becoming my best friend. In fact, we were in a football game. The guys put together during recess or lunch, and we actually got into it over a ball, and we came up kind of laughing. What are we doing here? And fighting over a stupid ball, and we became fast friends. And as often is the case when you grow up, you see what your friends' parents do, and I had friends that did everything. Our next door neighbor, he was a carpenter. The other next door neighbor was a businessman. Next to him was a doctor. But Terry's dad was Dave McElhatton, and Dave was the morning radio host on KCBS AM in San Francisco, and at the time he was the number 1 or number 2 rated radio host in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Wow.
And he was such a good guy. He was so nice. And I quickly kind of was attracted to all it was that he did and the family. They were very outgoing. And so Dave one day asked me if I wanted to go to work with him, and which during high school became a fairly regular thing. I would have to meet him at his garage door at 4:45, 4:45 in the morning.
Wow!
And the garage door would open up automatically because he'd be coming out the other side, and I'd catch a ride and go to the radio station, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And
no kidding.
And never, I mean, I did have dreams of being a professional tennis player, but I didn't quite get there. But my passion for radio and broadcasting at the time was, it was just so nurtured by Dave, and he was a great mentor, and I got into the business in a big way after that.
So that was while you were in high school, and then where did you go to college?
So college, I did a short stint at City College in San Francisco, but in my sophomore year, I got a scholarship to Pepperdine University in Malibu. It was a brand new campus. I had been looking for colleges that would provide scholarships, athletic scholarships, because I was trying to become an accomplished tennis player at the time, and I was looking at Arizona and TCU and other universities, and Pepperdine came along, and I got a look at the campus, and I'm like, okay, you know what? You don't have to beat me over the head very far, very, very long and far to know that, Pepperdine just might be the most perfect location.
It is incredible, John. I remember being out west with my two sons who had already started college, and we went and looked at Pepperdine, and they said to me, why didn't you tell us we might have been better students? As you say, it's just a perfect spot. And for a tennis player, it's got to be nirvana.
Oh, it was unbelievable. They were very, very smart and very strategic. And I'm sure they still are in terms of an administration. When they moved the campus, which was right next to USC, near downtown Los Angeles, their strategy was to start by funding the athletic program, the religion program, and a couple of other things after that. But by focusing first on the athletic program, they brought in baseball players, volleyball players, basketball players. And within several years, and we were a D1 school, we had top 10 teams in all sports. And
wow.
That brought a great deal of, it's a story that's not well known.
It's a good marketing story.
It brought in a lot of notoriety, a lot of money. And I had understood for years that they had the largest endowment of any religious school university in the country. I don't know where it is today, but no, it was very smart. It was well done, and it was a great experience.
Did you pursue a tennis career after college?
No, I wanted. In college, I tried. I was played my sophomore year and my junior year. In my senior year, actually had decided, working with a coach, to redshirt my senior year and travel, play tournaments, go around the country, around the world, get better, come back, have a good senior year, maybe a great senior year, and possibly break through. I was getting close on some big matches, but wasn't quite finishing them off. And just about the time I got ready to leave in August, would have been August of 1975, I was training and practicing, and I slipped and broke my foot on the court. And so that wiped out any chance of traveling that next year. Certainly not playing on the team, because at that point all the spots had been committed. So I jumped back in. I mean, I was in it, certainly during my studies. I jumped back in to academics, really focused on it. I got an internship in my senior year at a local radio station in Los Angeles. That was fantastic experience. After that internship, I got hired, and I went from there. So I think it was a matter of luck. I mean, I might have been a fair tennis player, but that experience was it was pretty neat, eye-opening. I worked on the Paramount lot in Los Angeles, which, by the way, is now where my youngest son works.
No kidding. It all comes around. Well, that story is one of resilience, and resilience is a common theme in your life, John. We'll touch on so many more points, but take us through your career now. You've been on the talent side of things. You've been talent. You've managed talent. You've coached talent. You've managed big networks, big properties. I know at one time you ran Westwood One. What do you make of the industry today? Certainly, just in the last half a dozen years, I'd say, podcasting has come into its own. There are so many good podcasts out there, so much great content. It's been democratized in such a big way. Yet, if I listen to people who know the world like you do, or another friend of mine, Bob Pittman, who will recite how radio is still the medium that attracts the most interactions to most people on a weekly basis, and people think it goes over, but there's still tens, if not hundreds of millions of people who listen to radio every week.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Radio is still the most consumed media today, and there are no fewer radio stations. And audio has gone through a transformation the last 6 to 10 years. When satellite radio was introduced, the radio industry looked at that as one of the original audio disruptors, fearful that possibly it would take away from the traditional terrestrial radio listening base. But the operators were very smart. Both Sirius and XM were separate at the time. They eventually came together. But I think what it did was it showed that audio programming could be presented and consumed in a very big way, differently than was being consumed on the radio side. It was commercial free for music. They actually hired different kinds of personalities on the talk side. But that was the beginning of the digital revolution on the audio side. And then when podcasting started, it really, I equate podcasting to what happened in television with cable. As cable started, it made a big difference relative to the network space. And
plus, there's other competition for our bandwidth of our ears. And that's things like books on tape and all the other training and educational and entertainment kinds of properties in recorded form, pre-podcast. I know I'm a consumer of audible content, books in every other kind of form. But in fact, if I was sit in my car and not have something on, it would be very uncomfortable.
That's a dog barking in the back. Yeah, no, and I think that's the beauty of audio today. You don't have to be in a fixed position. You can be traveling. You can be moving. A great deal on the radio side. Most of the consumption of radio and listening is in cars, still is in car, and more it's podcasting as well. But I think podcasting has done. I'm very grateful that something new was introduced to the audio industry at this stage. Who knows where we'll be, what AI potentially will do in terms of usage and consumption habits going forward, but they're still growing medias, and we'll see what the change looks like 10 years from now.
You don't sit down for dinner or for a drink at a cocktail party with somebody that it doesn't frequently turn into a conversation of what are you watching? Mm-hmm. And that's of recorded programming on Netflix or Prime or wherever you view things. What are you listening to in terms of books or reading in books, listening to books? More and more I find people are listening to books because they're not just read anymore, they're genuinely performed. And what do you listen to in terms of podcasts? Anything interesting? Any interesting people? And that's a frequent conversation. I bet you're involved in those too.
Yeah, no, it's great. And the biggest difference being, of course, that, as opposed to listening to radio or watching network TV or cable TV, with podcasting, well, you can certainly do it on television as well. But with podcasting, you consume it, you listen to it when you want to do it. And that makes a big difference for people. As people move around, we have a lot of choices. The choice has to fit for me.
And how do you spend your time now professionally?
I left ABC Radio at the end of 2008. That was the downturn. As you well know, we had been going through a slide in our economy for a couple of years at that point. We had actually seen the signal in media between newspapers and magazine ad sales and radio back in 2006, and I left ABC at the end of 2008. They graciously bought out my contract, and I started my own business. I thought about going to work for another company. I was head of programming for the ABC radio division, but I started my own business. It was consulting. My first client was Elvis Duran, his talent agent, David Katz, and I helped to strategize their network and syndication expansion. I did work for Harpo in the audio division, and I had identified Mike Huckabee in the conservative audio space as being an heir apparent to Paul Harvey. I worked very closely with Paul for almost 20 years.
I was a big fan.
Yeah, Paul, wonderful, and worked to get him in position. And then over time, what had happened was people were reaching out to me to have me negotiate their personal services agreements, their talent agreements, because they knew that I had come from the business side. And it wasn't something that I had actually naturally intended to do, but within about 6 months, I had done two of the major voices on WCBS AM. And within several years, I believe it's now been, it would be 11 years ago, I left in 2008, but 11 years ago, I decided that representing talent was what I wanted to do full time, not necessarily consulting, but representing talent. I always felt sometimes people are taken advantage of. I saw the industry from both sides, from the talent side and what they needed and should, deserve based on, what they brought to the table. I also saw the company side and how they view things and what they thought was fair. And I saw how the economics worked. And it was the one thing that in doing and being a talent agent that brought me closer to talent, who I fundamentally love. And so I became an agent, and I still do it today.
That's good. And how do you find talent now? Do you find new talent, or you're primarily working with well-established talent? You mentioned you saw Mike Huckabee as an heir to Paul Harvey. Did you seek him out? Did he seek you out?
When Mike happened, we sought him out after the presidential run, based on, as we did at the time, Mitt Romney, because they fit a little bit more to, Paul's. It's hard to figure where Paul's politics were.
Yep.
But if he was a traditionalist, and at the time, those two felt like the most articulate from that side of the political fence. And over time, we just felt that the governor Huckabee, given his radio experience and his media experience, would be best at it. Today, I'm kind of in a position that I don't actively, although I did identify somebody a month ago, I don't actively seek out new people. They usually find us through current clients or recommendations or word of mouth. At my age, I don't need to grow exponentially. I'm in a good place.
And John, did Rush Limbaugh change the radio landscape?
Oh, no doubt. I think Rush in a very big way. Rush took the position that listeners were not, from his side of the political fence, were not being well served, and that there were not choices and outlets for people of his position. Take that, which was true, they were not being well served, and take that with his giant-sized sense of humor and his master of the English language, and his ability to, with that sense of humor, to poke fun at people. But he very much changed the talk radio business as a result of Rush entering the space. See, most radio stations, successful news talk and talk radio stations, had people of both points of view.
Yes.
On the left and on the right, and usually pretty big news departments. But as Rush continued to grow, and then when we put Sean Hannity on the air, you now had 6 hours.
Was it ABC?
Yeah, that was at ABC. We did that, I think we hired Sean back in 1998 or 97 locally on WABC, and then put him into syndication. That was at night, then moved him up to dayside. And then the day before 9/11 in New York, we actually put him into national syndication. So once you had Rush and Sean and then Glenn Beck, now 9 hours a day, the industry took that as, well, maybe if we program that side of the political fence full time, we can make entire radio stations not very expensively.
It was that reason. Wow.
Yeah, no, that was it. That was exactly it. That, and then the new cable channel called Fox News came into play, and there was more sort of.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, there was more and more effort to bifurcate, general media users and
the big news today, John, is that Rupert Murdoch stepping down as a young man, 92 years old. He's got so much gas left in the tank. How could he consider retiring?
I don't know why. It's been, it's probably been a big year in his book.
I tell you, he still looks terrific, I think.
Yeah. I have a great Rupert Murdoch story, if I may.
Sure, I'd love a great Rupert Murdoch story.
So 1977, I just graduated college. I got 4 different jobs right after Pepperdine. And one of them was being a messenger for a magazine in Los Angeles, New West Magazine, that he had just bought. And one day I came in, all right, where am I going this morning? What are my pickups? They said, go pick up the new boss. He's at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Rolled up in my 1965 green Volkswagen. And you could see just, the guys, valets see me coming like, no, you don't belong here.
Don't even slow down here.
And I pulled up, got out of here. I'm here to pick up Mr. Murdoch. And he was over there and he came forward. He sort of looks at me, looks at the car, looks at me. He goes, sir, I'm here to take you to the magazine. And get out, open the door for him, put him in the car. And he asked me 20 questions about my business, about what I was doing, about this and that. I never got a chance to, I don't think I asked him anything. But in the, 10 minutes of driving him across town to his new magazine, I had an experience that I will, all these years later, 1977, I still don't forget it.
That's a good one. I just wish there was a picture of him looking at you, looking at the car behind you. He knew they weren't overspending on transportation at the magazine.
That's right. I mean, he asked me, what did I make? I said, well, I've got an hourly rate, plus I have a mileage rate. And he sort of figures it out. And then, do you only do the mornings? I go, no, every time there's a close, I have to be available. It was great.
My sister's birthday.
Go to 100flowers.com.
They have tons of great birthday gifts.
Wow.
Whoa.
Happy birthday, baby.
Wow.
Yeah, me. I got to contain myself.
1-800-Flowers.
Celebrate the people you love.
What was the best job you've had besides today? Best job you've had in radio? When the radio market was really booming, you're running a business that you really have your teeth sunk into. What was that?
Yeah, I think it was probably two jobs that I look back, most favorably. The first one was being news director and then program director for KGO Radio in San Francisco. We were in New York. I had been working for NBC and then WOR Radio, and an opportunity came up in San Francisco to be news director for KGO, which was the #1 news talk radio station in the country. It had fabulous ratings. It had a 20-person news department for a radio station.
Wow.
And they had the wherewithal to cover international news if something broke that was so significant. And I said to Marie that, this is the job that will, if I go for a few years, that will get me the big job back in New York. And I left in 1989, went out to become news director. 2 years later, become program director. 2 years later after that, the big job in New York, the vice president of news for ABC Audio came available, and we came back to New York. And I loved that. I loved that job because there was nothing we couldn't do. We covered the world. We covered the news locally. When I got there, I mean, I had only been there a few minutes or 3 months when we had the earthquake in San Francisco during the World Series. I was at the World Series. I was trying to recruit a new business reporter, and I took her to, hey, want to go to the World Series? And we had the earthquake, and all eyes were obviously on the ABC flagship station. And then in 1993, was given the opportunity to come back and run ABC News, and that was also amazing. Tremendous resources. Paul
Did
Harvey.
you just feel like you were at the center of the universe then?
Yeah, in every single way.
Yeah.
We had, like I said, Paul Harvey. We had this huge news department of 2,500 radio stations. We were getting into the sports business and just launched ESPN programming, ESPN radio programming on the weekend. The music programming was being expanded, largely due to the fact that we had so much business in Paul Harvey that we needed to expand in order to sort of flatten it out, if you will. And the company got into urban programming and, all different kinds of country programming and really expanded it. And that was a wonderful job. And I was there in New York from in one position or another, and then leading that division from 1993 until 2008.
Was there a time we were neighbors in Manhasset?
Well, we probably were. We were in Manhasset for 25 years. We lived in Muncie Park.
Uh-huh.
We bought the house, moved in April 15th, 1994. It was snowing. We live right behind your new executive within your organization, sharing a backyard with the Fortes. We moved in 1994, and we were there 25 years, and we loved it. We loved being there.
It must have been hell living behind the Fortes, though. I mean, the parties, the pigs being roasted. It was just Sodom and Gomorrah all the time.
It was pretty wild. We cut a path between the two houses. We didn't have a fence in the backyard.
And I know, John, that you have other passions besides your professional life and your listening life. But before we move on to that, besides this podcast, what do you find yourself? What do you listen to? What do you sample? Anything you go to regularly in terms of podcast land?
Yeah, mostly I love news podcasts. I listen to a lot of the Wall Street Journal. Listen to the New York Times. I listen. I really tend to always want the latest information. Obviously, I had a career in the news business and journalism, and that was important to me. So that is primarily what I do. I do listen to podcasts of clients, and I represent individuals on both sides of the political fence. But generally speaking, my go-to is live news.
Yep. And I love now if I see an article in a journal in the morning or the Times, and I can click the button, and when I hop in the car, I can listen to that story on the way to the office. I just think that's great. I got to tell you a quick story. It was back in March at Worth Media Group, Worth Magazine. They were putting on a conference, a women's conference, and I was opening the conference with some remarks. And I convinced my adult daughter, my oldest child, who also lives in Manhasset, I convinced her to let my 14-year-old granddaughter, the oldest, take the day off from school and come with me to the conference because there were going to be so many terrific women there. It's a conference, I try and hold it to 100 people, but it was out of control. It got to about 220. And we had some really terrific speakers. And I thought, what an education for my 14-year-old granddaughter to come and meet some of these people, listen to them, spend the day. So My wife decided to come, my daughter came, and my granddaughter. So the four of us sitting, it was over in Hudson Yards on the west side of Manhattan. And the best way to get in is on the Long Island Railroad, which you were, I'm sure, a frequent user of.
Yep.
So we go into Penn Station, walk the 2 blocks over to Hudson Yard, and we're sitting facing one another. My wife and I facing my daughter and my granddaughter, who's named Abby. And she looked at me, she says, "Papa, I've never seen anybody read a newspaper before."
Oh, golly.
I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, my dad reads it on his phone, and I never travel on the subway or the Long Island Railroad. And here you and all these other people," I had the journal that I picked up off the driveway. He says, "You and all these other people read the newspaper. I've never seen that before." and that's when I realized, oh Lord, things are changing.
Yeah, no, in a big way. I tell you, I don't get the newspaper every day, but I do get it on the weekend, and I do look forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So the other passion that I know about in your life is you have an interest in spinal cord injuries, brain injuries, and what goes on there. How did you develop that interest, John? And then I'd love to hear what you think about what's going on in the world of treatment and research there. But how did this become a passion?
Sure. So in 2005, in November 2005, early November, I came home very late on a Friday night. I had just hired a new talent at ABC. For country music fans, they know Brooks and Dunn and Kix Brooks. Kix Brooks became the new host of American Country Countdown. He was also president at the time of the Country Music Awards, and he decided that year the awards should be in New York City. And so he was now already on the air, came to New York, and basically I got introduced to 4 days of a lot of entertaining, shall we say, a lot of parties. And I came home super late.
You saying these country people can party?
Oh boy, they introduced me. Why do you guys drink clear liquids? You know, vodka, tequila. Well, fewer calories. Anyway, I had a couple of guys that I used to meet every Saturday morning. We go for a bike ride and a run. And I woke up in a start. I was late that morning. I'd overslept a bit. And in my hurry to find my running shoes, get on my bike to meet my friends, I could not find my little backpack for my running shoes. So I got on the bike and I tied my running shoes together. You know how you've seen, shoes, tennis shoes, tied together at the laces, thrown over wires, that kind of thing.
Power cables, sure.
Yeah. And so here's the bar, the bar on the bike. Here are the handlebars. Here's the bar. And I draped the 2 running shoes over the crossbar of the bike. And about 10 minutes in, a few minutes away from meeting my friends, one of the shoes was getting close to the front fork. And I reached over to grab the shoe to pull it back. And what I ended up doing is mistakenly, stupidly, I pushed the shoe into the front tire. It got stuck in the fork, and I went flying.
Did you have a helmet on?
I had a helmet on, and that helmet saved my life. In fact,
wow.
When I landed kind of on the right side of my head. When you look at the helmet from the inside, and you always wonder, well, why are helmets shaped that way? Why are they constructed that way? Well, those things that come together like this are actually stress points. And every one of the stress points in the helmet was cracked. And there was a big skid.
It absorbed a lot of shock as they were designed to do.
Everything. And I hit the ground, and I couldn't move. I was a bit, on my right side, facing like this, and I couldn't feel anything except what felt like a sledgehammer had hit me on the back of my neck. And I had no feeling other than that, except my little pinky on my right side, and I could feel a little bit. I could feel my small toe on the left side. I looked back, and I could see the road behind me, and I could see a car coming up, and not being able to move. I said, "Well, shoot, this is how it's going to be." And very fortunate, the car stopped. The guy walked out. I remember he had on brand new tennis shoes and wearing blue jeans, and he walked up to me. He said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I can't move."
You were able to speak.
I was able to speak. He said, "What can I do?" And I said, "Call 911. There's actually a police officer up the road. I just went by him." And then he goes, "John McConnell?" And I said, "Yes." He goes, "It's Alan, Bob's friend." And I'm like, "Oh, how are you?" I said, and he said, "Better than you, I think." And then he made some sort of comment about not being able to beat me in tennis even then. And I chuckled and laughed, and it kind of took some stress off. I said, "Alan, call 911. And fast forward to the hospital. What I'm glossing over is the moments of understanding and appreciating what, and for a very short period of time, what paralysis actually would mean to people. I thought about, not being able to walk, not being able to hug and kiss my kids, not being able to hold my wife, not being able to go to the bathroom, take care of yourself. Everything came rushing in, and it continued to do over the next several hours because I had no movement. They got me to the hospital. I started to get a little movement back.
North Shore, I assume?
I was at North Shore. And I was, again, fast forwarding, I was blessed by the orthopedic surgeon who was on call, who, after all the others said, we have to prepare him for surgery, we have to do this and that. The orthopedic surgeon on call, Dr. Jeff, said, "I don't know if any emergency room doctor would ever make this decision, but I'm not going to operate on you in the short run. I'm going to let you sit for a few more hours." They even decided that they didn't put me in a cage. They didn't put me in the cube, but they had me in a full body brace. Said, "Just don't move, just sit, be calm. Let's see how you do." And over the next several hours into the evening, he kept checking on me. And the next morning, he came in, "How was your night?" And he said to me, "I'm going to tell you something that no doctor would ever say. I'm not going to operate. I think you are the luckiest patient I have ever seen, because there I was with not only an inflamed spinal cord, but I had cracked the top two vertebrae in my neck clean through."
Wow.
But they were done, C1 and C2, but the breaks were in such a way that he felt that by staying still, that I wouldn't be in jeopardy. And he thought that they would heal successfully without any sort of intervention. And honest to God, I was released a few days later, and I was walking a week later. And that decision by him, probably saved the quality of my life, forever.
Wow. And behaviorally, look, doctors first sign a Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
Take a Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
But behaviorally, they get paid to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the overwhelming behavioral imperatives for them would be to do what they are trained to do, surgery. But here's someone who, thinking about his oath and thinking about why he went into medicine, which is to help people in the best way he could, decided that what he'd get paid for isn't what he should do. That's remarkable, and wow, what a testament to him. What good fortune.
Yeah, Dr. Jeff Silber is his name. He's there in Great Neck, and when I was 2019 honored by the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, I'll get to that. He came. He was there with his wife, and still very grateful to thank him. So
tell us about how you got involved with the Christopher Reeve Foundation.
So in April, this is now almost 6 months later, still very much in a brace. I'm reading an article Sunday morning about the foundation. Chris had passed away. Dana was sick. It told the story of how the foundation had come together with the original founders and how he got involved. And at the end of the article, it said that they were recruiting participants for the 2006 marathon in New York City. And I get to the end of it, and, with those same buddies that I told you about meeting for a walk and a run, we had always talked about doing a marathon together. And of course, the light bulb went off, and I'm like, that's it. That's my goal. I'm going to work towards doing the 2006 marathon, because it was essentially a year and a couple of days from the anniversary of having my accident. So I called my wife, Marie, into the room. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I can't tell you, even though this is podcasting, what she said to me about my, great big idea.
How often do you, because of your work, I have a younger brother who had a bad bike accident, not as serious as yours, but serious nonetheless, about 5 years ago. And they broke both collarbones. Fortunately, he had his helmet on, and it split in half too. So he had a concussion, broken collarbones, broken ribs. But how often do you hear of people having bike accidents?
No, all the time. And the bike accidents aren't generally the road warriors who are out there for 40, 50, 100-mile rides. It's a mom or a dad or a child that's a few minutes away or down the block from the house that got on the bike and thought, no big deal, I don't need my helmet. And it's like that's where so much of it happens, and not wearing a helmet. I mean, I would never think of not wearing a helmet. And I tell you what, that helmet that I gave to the bike shop, the local bike shop in Port Washington, at the time, he sold a lot of helmets when people came in to buy a new bike, and said, well,
and
let me
saw that hanging there.
So I saw the story about the foundation. I called my buddies. All of a sudden, everybody's in to do the marathon. I'd also reached out to the foundation for some resources and information. And I talked to them, got involved, said to them, what do you think about the idea of a guy breaks his neck, does the New York Marathon? A year later, can we get in and raise funds on your behalf? And it became a lifelong partnership and love. I got involved then in 2008 or 2006. I'm still very committed to the foundation. I'm the national vice chair. I'm going to do the marathon again this year, my 9th on behalf of the foundation.
Well, that's terrific.
In New York, and I'm still extremely involved.
John, what is the work of the foundation now?
So it's really twofold. It's the mission is all about care and cure. We are very committed to running a resource center, in part funded by the government, but a national resource center for those who are newly injured, who need help, information, awareness, contacts. That is a very important part of the foundation. And we're also very determined to support and invest in transformational research.
And producer Katie was telling me there's some really exciting things going on in terms of bone regeneration and an artificial bone to help heal spinal injuries.
Oh, it's well, like so much of medical science in almost every field, there are advances being made as a result of new good science. But absolutely, we're making more and more progress of late than has ever been made. We have been very committed to the study of epidural stimulation, just to give you one example, whereby when the spinal cord is injured or is cut, electrical impulses implanted, above and below that break can help feed data, information from one part from the brain, all the way down, and has been instrumental in helping any number of people regain, temperature control, bathroom control, whatever it is. There is a lot going on.
And any university or any medical center doing particularly good work on the spinal research?
Yeah, I think there are any number of universities in San Diego and New York that are involved, and the collaborations are coming from all over the world, and it's a very collaborative industry, if you will, because people know we're getting closer to making, and we do now, to making a big difference for those that are injured that now have spinal cord damage.
Well, John, you've led an amazing life professionally, personally. I know you and Marie have 3 children. What kind of careers are they pursuing?
We have 2 boys. Both of my sons, Jesse and Jason, live in Los Angeles. Jesse, he works for the Dodgers. I know you're a bit of a baseball fan with the Mets. So he's now the director of marketing. He's the director of branding and marketing for the Dodgers.
Wow, what a big opportunity that is, huh?
He loves it. He joined in February. He's doing great. He's working with a very old friend, sportscaster for the Dodgers, Charlie Steiner, who we knew.
Sure.
In fact, we love showing Jesse the baby present that Charlie gave to him back 36 years ago when he was born. So he's the older one. 5 years younger is Jason, who's 31. He's a vice president of development at Paramount and Nickelodeon Studios. And he's a very busy movie executive. He has a lot of great projects. And the beauty is they both live about 3 minutes away from one another in Echo Park in Los Angeles. So
that's terrific. The only thing that would be better is if they were 3 minutes away from you.
yeah. Well, they like the beaches here, so they come see us often.
That's great. With your sons both being in the entertainment industry of sorts, tell us, a young person who graduating from Central Florida University, coming to visit his folks in Vero Beach, and happens to sit next to you at putting on his shoes to go for a bike ride. You get in the conversation. What are you telling him to think about career-wise?
I think the first thing that I tell younger people, and I actually tell this to, earlier today, I worked with some newbie lawyers. And we talked about negotiation, and we talked about how to present points of view and all. The first thing I tell people is you surely better know how to stand up when somebody walks into a room. You better know how to shake hands with somebody and look them straight in the eye. You need to know how to say please and thank you. And you need to do it with respect. Because there are a lot of young people that are in your position, and everybody's looking for an in, and everybody's looking for a way to get through the door. It's those young people that respect the decision makers. Those are the ones that get a second chance. So that's number one. Number two, I tell them, you need to live your professional life. Heck, you need to live your personal life with one coda. Or, well, there are probably two or three, but one in particular. you do unto others as you will have them do unto you. You treat people that you work with at your level, below you, and above you the way that you want to, or you expect to be treated. That's probably first. The second thing is you have to be trustworthy. You have to be a person of your word, because if you're not, that will get around, and it's not an obvious path forward. And that's how I talk to them about how to be and what to think and sort of how to present. But in terms of professional pursuit, I mean, there are any number of ways and things I would probably tell them about consumption of materials and books and information, in the area that they're interested in, how to get in touch with people, how to network. My kids are where they are, not because of anything I had to do for them, because they knew how to network and they knew how to keep in touch and follow up.
And live by the code.
There you go.
Well, John, you certainly in your career have put your money where your mouth is and lived by the code from what I've come to know. And I was so appreciative of sharing your story with us today, telling us all about all the interesting things that are going on in the world of spinal injury treatment, and sharing your story about your own family. There's so many people who can learn from you, and I think my understanding is they do all the time, and now we get to take it to an even broader audience. So, John, thanks for being so generous with your story and with your time with us. It's been a treat to get to know you.
And you. Nice to see you. See you soon, I hope.
Keep those personalities coming on the airwaves.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
This is birthday.
Go to 100flowers.com.
They have tons of great birthday gifts. Wow.
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 Happy birthday, baby.
Wow.
Yummy. I got to contain myself.
1-800-Flowers.
Celebrate the people you love.
Well, I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and I know I'll be sharing it forward. I hope you get to as well. Let's keep the conversation going. Follow me along on Twitter at Jim1800Flowers and on LinkedIn at Jim McCann. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Celebrations Chatter. You can join our community by reaching out at chatter@celebrations.com. And while you're at it, tell us what topics you'd like us to explore here on the Celebrations Chatter podcast. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to share it forward.